So looking at our systems of equations, so this is what we did recently in chapter 5. You always want to get y equals or x equals something, and whatever it's equal to, you take that and plug it in to the other equation. So here I have 1x, which would just be x, minus -1, because I'm plugging in that -1 into the y spot, but everything else stays the same, is equal to -2. What happens when I have minus a negative? Turns positive. So x plus 1 is equal to -2, and then how would I solve? Subtract 1 on both sides, so x is equal to -3. And we always write our answer as a coordinate point. What's our x?
-3.
And what's y? -1. That was given, so we didn't even need to plug x back in to find y. It already told us what y is. So this would be our answer. And then we'll do 55 also. So for 55, do I have either an x equals or y equals? No, but I can make one of my equations y equals or x equals. Which one do you think would be better?
Y equals.
Y equals, and which equation do you want to do that to, the first or the second?
The first.
I would say the second would be easier since we already have a positive y there. So I only have to move one thing to make it y equals. What would I have to move to make my second equation y equals? The -10x. So I would add 10x to move it to the other side. So now I have y equals 10x plus 35. And if you said 35 plus 10x, that works too. The order doesn't matter. So now that I have y equals, I could take what y is equal to and do what with it? Plug it in. So I would take it and plug it into the y. So I have 2x minus 10x plus 35 is equal to -3. I have to combine like terms, but before I do that, what should I do? I just plugged it in, but what should I do next? Distribute the negative. So if it's a minus, don't forget to distribute the negative. So 2x minus 10x minus 35 is equal to -3. Now I can combine my like terms. What's 2x minus 10x? -8x. And then I could add 35 to move it to the other side. So what's -3 plus 35? 32. Awesome. Divide both sides by -8, so x is equal to -4. So that's just x. How can I find y? Put it into the x value in either the first equation or the second. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to plug it into the x. So I have 2 times -4 minus y is equal to -3. What should I do first? Distribute. So 2 times -4 would be -8 minus y is equal to -3. What should I do next? Add 8. So -y is equal to 5. Then what do I do? Divide by -1, so y is equal to -5. So how would I write my answer? -4, -5. Perfect. All right, 67 and 68. We have to use the intercepts to graph the linear equation and label the points corresponding to the intercepts. So to find our x-intercept, we plug in 0 for y. So when I plug in 0 for y, I just get rid of the y. I'm going to do 68. So I just get rid of the y, and I have x is equal to 3. So my x-intercept would be 3, 0. I put the 3 in the x spot since x is 3. Now to find the y-intercept, where we cross the y-axis, we plug in 0 for x. So it's always the opposite one. So when I plug in 0 for x, I just get rid of the x, and I would have to solve the equation for y. So I have y is equal to 3. So my y-intercept would be 0, 3. I put the 3 in the y position because it's y is equal to 3. Now when I graph this, I cross the x-axis at 3, so I'd put a point there, and I cross the y-axis at 3, so I'd put a point there. And then I just connect my two dots. So graphing using the x and y intercepts is just a little bit different than like slope-intercept form, but you'll get 2 points, and you just connect your points. I'm going to do the same thing for 69. So to find the x-intercept, I plug in 0 for y. So in my point, y is going to be 0. So I need to figure out what x is when I plug in 0 for y. So here I have negative x is equal to negative 3. So what does x equal? 3. Awesome. I divide both sides by negative 1 to get rid of that negative on the x. So x is equal to 3. So x would be 3. So I have a point at 0, 3, or at 3, 0. So I cross the x-axis because it's my x-intercept at 3. So I'd have a point there. With me so far? All right. So let's find the y-intercept now. The y-intercept, we plug in 0 for x. So my x is going to be 0 now. I need to figure out what the y is. So in my equation, I can get rid of the x because I plug in 0 there, so it just goes away. So I have y is equal to negative 3. I don't have to solve anything here, so I just have y is negative 3. So my y-intercept would be at negative 3. So I cross the y-axis at negative 3. So now these are my 2 points, and I connect the dots. So that would be my line. All right, for 71 through 73, we're going to skip these. It won't be on the midterm. For 74, we've done this recently. We have to find the slope to figure out which lines are parallel. How can I find the slope? Rise over run. So I can count my rise over run. I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and to the right 1, 2. So for my first line, my slope is 4 over 2, which would be what? 2. Perfect. So let's look at the second line. I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I go to the right 2. So this would be 5 over 2. I can't simplify that, so it would just be 5 over 2. Do these two have the same slope? No, so they're not parallel. Let's check the third line. I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and to the right 2. So that would be 4 over 2, which simplifies to 2. So which two lines are parallel? The first and the third. So these are parallel. Because they have the same slope. Let's look at 75. So when I graph an arithmetic sequence, the number of term that it is matters. So this is my first term, second term, third term, fourth term. So I'm going to graph them. The number of term is your x, and then the actual term is your y. So my first point here would be 1, comma, negative 12. So I'd go to the right 1 and down 12. So I'd have a point there. What would my next point be? 2, negative 5. So I go to the right to 2 and down to negative 5.
You have to graph this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's only 4 points, so it's not too bad. The next point would be 3, comma 2. So we go to the right 3 and up 2. And then the fourth point would be 4, 9. So we go to the right 4 and up 9. And our dots will make a straight line because it's an arithmetic sequence, so they all have the same slope, but you don't connect them with a line. Right, for 76, we are writing a piecewise function for the graph. So for piecewise, how many piecewise functions do I have here? 2. So I'm going to leave space for 2 pieces. We always start from left to right. So starting with my left piece, I need to figure out the slope and the y-intercept, because I'm going to put it in y equals mx plus b form. So to find my slope, what should I do? Rise over run. I can pick any 2 points. So I'll pick these 2. Careful with our labels on the x and y axis, because notice how it goes -2. So it goes 2 at a time instead of just 1. So here I would go in between these 2 points. I go up 1, 2. And then I would go to the right 1, 2. So this would be 2 over 2. So my slope would be 2 over 2, which is 1. And then my y-intercept, my b, where do I cross the y-axis? At -1. So when I put this into an equation, I have y equals 1x minus 1. So it's just x minus 1. Now I need to write my restriction. So where does my graph start here? At what x value? 0. Are we talking about x values that are less than 0 or greater than 0? Less than. So x is less than. Is it just less than or equal to? Less than or equal to, because it's a solid dot there. So x is less than or equal to 0. So that's just our first piece. We're going to do the same thing for the second piece. So again, I'm going to write it in my y equals mx plus b form. So let's find our slope first. We can pick any 2 points. So I'm going to pick this one, and we'll pick the starting point. So be careful because our increments go up by 2. So I'm just going to go halfway, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So I go up 4 and to the right 1, 2. So my slope here would be 4 over 2, which simplifies to 2. And then what is my y-intercept, my b? 1. Cross the y-axis at +1. So when I put this together, I have y equals 2x plus 1. So here I have y equals 2x plus 1. Now I have to write my restriction here. So I'm talking about the x values. Where does my graph start? At what x value? 0. Are we talking about x values that are greater than 0 or less than 0? Greater than. So x is greater than 0. Is it just greater than or equal to? Just greater than, because it's an open circle. So this would be our answer. A white pelican scoops up 130 cubic inches of water. Write and solve an inequality to represent how much more water the pelican can add to its bill. So it should be x plus 130, because we already start with 130 cubic inches, and that has to be less than or equal to 650, because 650 is the max. That's as much as we can hold, so everything else has to be less than that. So it should be x plus 130 is less than or equal to 650. So that is A. And then for B, it says the volume of a white pelican's stomach is about 1/3 the volume of its bill. Write an inequality that represents the volume of the pelican's stomach. So for the volume, we're not talking about cubic inches of water anymore. We're just talking about the volume. So we could say V, and then it's 1/3 the volume of its bill. So V has to be less than or equal to 650 divided by 3. So whatever it is that you are being told here, 1/3, we take 1/3 of the total amount, 650. Volume is going to be something less than that, because it doesn't have to be completely full, but that's just the max it could be. So this would be B.